Is my mic on? Yes, it is. Hey,
How are you doing?
fine, how are you?
Busy.
Good, you should stay busy.
Mike's on.
Daisy. Daisy needs, and Rhonda needs. It is on. Yeah, I'm ready to start. I'll call the meeting to order at this time and note that we do have a quorum for our meeting. Want to welcome everyone and just thank Tammy Maxwell for providing coffee and some nourishment for us to get started this early morning. We have 3 items for discussion and action, which will require a vote on each one. The first is the approval of minutes from the HRC meeting on January 24th, 2024. Hope everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes. Are there any suggested changes or additions to the minutes? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Ralph?
Second.
Motion. Rhonda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. The minutes are approved. The second item for discussion and vote is the approval of the 2023 annual report. Emma, could we put that on the screen easily, or shall we proceed without it on the screen? All of you received this annual report.
And it's in your packet.
It's in your packet as well. This was provided to Debbie Martin, who passed that on to the City Council. City Council indicated to us that we did not need to make an in-person presentation at this time, so our report stands as submitted. Because we haven't voted to ratify or approve it, I'd like to have on the record our Commission's approval of our annual report and would entertain a motion. Before entertaining a motion, are there any comments about the annual report, its form, its content? Yes, Rhonda.
I just appreciated its succinctness, and it's very easy to remember those key don't let me talk anymore. Like I said, Emma, it's too early to have a meeting.
Someone control her microphone?
No, it's very easy to remember and good talking points, and thank you for making it happen like that.
Well, thank you, Rhonda, for also suggesting that we make the annual report available at the beginning of meetings, because from time to time we will have members of the public who might not know what the HRC is doing, and so making the report available, I think, is a great idea. With everyone's consensus, we'll do that. It's on the website, so it's available online, but just having it for our meetings, I think, is a wonderful suggestion.
It actually hasn't been posted online. I wanted to wait until approval.
Oh,
and then
okay,
I will
very good. So
work with
after
Liz.
our approval, assuming that is, we will post it on the website. Any other comments, suggestions? Ralph?
Am I on? Okay, good.
Yes.
Have you heard anything from the city council or the city officials about our commission? Have they visited with you privately or in person?
I've heard from none of the commissioners. I'm in touch with the mayor and the city manager pretty regularly just to give them updates. So I think they feel very comfortable with how the commission is unfolding and developing. We did get the message from city council, maybe it's through the city manager, I'm not really sure who made the decision, but we didn't need to make an in-person presentation, which I think can be viewed as some absence of concern. If they were concerned, I think they would want to talk with us. And Commissioner Peck, can you weigh in on this at all? Or?
Sure. I would say that everything that I've seen from our commission, both as a council member and as a commissioner, is pretty standard for boards, trusts, and commissions within the city. You know, the council appoints each of us, you know, with the trust and admiration to hold up the purpose, right? And so, as Dean Couch said, you know, we usually don't have too much involvement unless something's going in a direction that maybe we wouldn't want it to.
Right.
You know, and generally that'll start first with an interaction with our, you know, our personally appointed or recommended appointees, and then go a little higher from there if we're not able to affect the kind of change we want to make. So I agree with Dean Couch from the perspective that, you know, and it's probably not what we want to hear, but no news is good news kind of thing. And so I would encourage each one of you to, you know, if you feel compelled to, we do like to hear from our commission members. You know, if you contact your council member directly and just say, hey, here's what's going on, we enjoy that. It isn't always top of mind for us to reach out to you for that. So that's kind of.
That's a very helpful observation, and should be some encouragement for each of us to stay in touch with the appointing or the nominating city council member, just to continue that good relationship and flow of communication. If any of you do hear from anyone on the city council or city government that there is a concern, please pass that on. I'm sure you would, just so that we can be aware and respond to any concerns.
My concern was not so much of their concerns, but to basically show off a little bit. Honestly, it was, because I read, coming back from North Carolina on the airplane, that we weren't going to, because I was hoping to get the message, hey, we're going to show up at the city council on Tuesday morning, and Valerie's going to get to speak, and we're all going to back her up. And so I was a little disappointed in that,
Yes.
honestly. But if no news is good news, I'm okay with that.
I think I am okay with that too. I'm a big believer in communicating in every way that we can that's appropriate. So perhaps someday we will have an opportunity to address the city council.
And I think a good opportunity for that are when we're doing, when we're planning the public meetings where we're going to do some educational opportunities, to come and speak to council and tell them, hey, this is what we've got going on next month at our Human Rights Commission. So-and-so is coming in and that sort of thing. I think that would be a very good thing for us to have an opportunity to do.
Mm-hmm.
Dean Couch.
Yes.
I don't know what, could city staff help us with contact information? I've used the email that is on the website unsuccessfully at this point. So if you could give me a contact avenue, I would really appreciate that.
When we get done here, I'll walk you down there and we will talk to Debbie Martin and we will get the
Perfect.
issue addressed.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Debbie Martin is so key to communicating with the city council members.
Okay,
that
great, thank you.
Using her would be great.
We've had some staff changes lately, so yeah, just leave it at that.
So the report was in the city council's packet for a meeting, about a month ago,
Yeah, I
perhaps.
think it was 2 meetings. ago.
So they did have an opportunity to have it in hand, and I'm sure that they feel free, if they want to contact us. I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2023 annual report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? And any opposed? All right, the annual report is approved. The third and last item for a vote is approval of the 2024 strategic goals, and that is also in your packet. What Emma and I did is assemble the goals of each committee and created what we hope is sort of an integrated set of goals that make sense across the committees. We had to tinker with the goals a tiny bit, and so I want to make sure that everybody and all the committees are comfortable with the goals. These goals will hopefully kind of keep us accountable for accomplishing what we want to do this year, and we'll be able to report at the end of the year having done these items. Any suggestions or changes to the goals? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the strategic goals for 2024. Ralph makes the motion.
Second.
Rhonda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? All right. The strategic goals are approved. We now have some follow-up to our strategic planning session. One item that we discussed and also ends up on the goal, the 2024 goals, is discussion about whether to whether to have a mission statement, and also if we do, what should it say? What is the statement that we all feel comfortable with, stating at the mission, the essential purpose of this commission? And obviously we have the ordinance as a North Star for our purpose, but it's hard to, as Ralph has observed, it's hard to just take things directly from the ordinance. We need something easy to say and easy to hear in terms of who we are and what we're doing and why. Is everyone in favor generally of working on a mission statement? Anybody have concerns? All right. My only mild sort of observation is that we do need to keep the ordinance in mind. So with that as sort of the backdrop, I will turn it over to our wonderful Rules and Governance Committee for a discussion.
Thank you, Dean Couch. So right now, the HRC's current mission statement reads as this: the Commission's mission is to support the city's commitment to protect the human rights of every person in our community. And it's very succinct, and it says a lot by saying a little. However, as Chairman Couch alluded to, being able to kind of expound on that and really have something that speaks from our hearts, because that's what the community wants to hear. They want to connect with this commission, and we want to connect with them. And so I feel like the mission statement, and possibly for future discussion, a purpose and a vision statement may be coming out of the whole discussion that really gives us, in the end, kind of the bullet points to share, kind of an elevator pitch is kind of not, we're not trying to sell it, but it's a good, short description that really talks to the heart of what we do. And so today what we'd like to do, and Emma sent it out early on, was to kind of Post-it note, 1 or 2 word phrases, really coming forward with kind of a word cloud, if you will, of what each of our individual answers are to these questions, because it means something a little bit different to each one of us. There's something that brought us to these commission seats that compelled us. And we kind of talked about those in the very early days, when we were just getting to know one another. And so we kind of like to go back to that just a little bit, and we'll take these Post-it notes and we'll kind of hit each question individually and just kind of write a 1 or 2 word, either on one Post-it note, or maybe you've got 3 words, but it's 3 individual, concepts for each question. So we'll talk about the first question, and then there's a Post-it board back here. So when you have your word ready, we'll stick those Post-it notes on the board for that question, and then Emma's going to record it and kind of share it back to us after this meeting. And then I think, if I understand what the goal is that for the next meeting, we'll kind of come forward based on the conversations that we have today with some proposed statements, and we'll tweak them as a group so that the end result is something that everybody can sign off on, that it still delivers the message that's in your heart. And with 9 of us, that's going to be a challenge, but I think that we will find a lot of common themes as we go through the exercise. So with that said, the first question that we had to go over was, why were we formed? And so the answer to that, I want to come from inside of you, not necessarily from, media clicks or that sort of thing. For you, what was happening in the community that caused us to be formed? Or what do you feel like was the why for you? So we'll start with that one, and if you guys can write 1 or 2 words, and we'll just kind of crowd the poster board. It might be better if we brought it kind of out of the curve a little bit.
Yeah, I can move it / I can be a little runner to pick up sticky
Oh,
notes.
okay.
And if you
That's
could just
probably better.
note that it's question 1, so that when
Oh.
I'm going back and looking at all these, I can sort out everyone's thoughts and just organize them, that'd be great. So just indicate it's question 1.
Okay, Dr. Harrod, I'm sorry, did you have a question? I
Yeah,
can't
just
see it from
clarifying.
here.
Do you want 3 Post-its per question or 1 Post-it per question?
It's however many your heart leads you to. Just 1 or 2 words per Post-it note. Yeah.
I have another question too. Just as I was listening, it seems to me that the possibilities of this are more than just a mission statement. Maybe from this, we have, like you said, a purpose statement or a vision statement.
Possibly.
Slightly different purposes for each of
Right.
those,
So let me talk about that for a second. So when I was trying to really think about the mission statement, right, and I really had to Google, a lot of different things about, and looked at a lot of different examples of HRC mission statements and that sort of thing across the nation. And I did find that there were many with purpose, mission, and vision statements. So a purpose statement is just an explanation of the HRC's motivations and reasons for being, why it works the way it does. So I feel like the purpose statement's probably going to speak more towards the ordinance itself and kind of the nuts and bolts. Then the mission statement is the definition of our business, who we serve, what it does, our objectives, and our approach to reaching those objectives. And then the vision statement is a description of the desired future state. So I got a little excited when I read that one. An effective vision inspires all, showing them how success will look and feel. And I think as an end result with the 3 of those, that's the pitch, right? It's still less than like a 3 to 4 minute. If you're reading it, it's a 3 to 4 minute spoken segment. So it's still kind of elevator pitchy, but it kind of covers all of the things that I feel like we're desiring as an end result.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
not one, like, I wrote some down that kind of stood out to me, but I didn't really find one that I was like, this is how it needs to be. Has everybody turned in their Post-it notes for the first question? You will not be graded.
Oh,
Stop
I
it.
haven't. Sorry. I was on to number 2.
I left my red pen at home, Emma. Always graded in green. Because feedback should be life-giving, punitive.
I love that.
Yeah, read it. You want me to read them?
Read them out? Yeah. Like I'm like, they're gonna have to be a lot closer. Okay. So we're gonna share, and on the first question, here are many of the responses. So representation, see that a couple of times, provide support, equity, human value, voices heard, community, improve relationships, come together to help, fairness, access, where to go, equitable, so access, representation, and treatment, providing space for all voices. Sorry, it's my eyes, not your writing. Unity, to fill a need, to serve, and voices of citizens. So as I mentioned, you start to see a lot of the, we're kind of all on the same page here, which is always good. It's a lot of similar thought processes and that sort of thing for the whys. And so we love to see that, because that kind of also reinforces the fact that, despite the fact that we all come from different places and from different backgrounds and with different ideologies, that we're still all here together for all the right reasons and for all the same goals. So I love that. It makes me happy. All right, so question number 2 is, who do we serve? So let me put some guardrails around that, because I don't want 50 or 9 community Post-it notes. Be specific. When you accepted this appointment, be very specific about who you wanted to serve, not just who the commission was organized to serve, but let's be really specific about that. I think that, even if we keep it higher level when we actually write the mission statement, I think having that vision in there of who are we here for? Who are we individually here representing, standing up for, motivated to protect and serve? Who is that? And whether it's a person or a gender or, I'm going to use the wrong words. Let me think about it, because I don't want to mess it up. Any overlooked group, or Dean Couch saved me here because I'm trying to find the right words. So I'm thinking like the LGBTQ community.
So
Maybe that's who motivated.
Are you wanting us to be comprehensive? Who do we serve? A comprehensive answer, or do you want us to break that down
I think
into like groups that we are particularly concerned about or
Yes.
informed about?
I
or-
think I would like for it to be very specific that way for each of us as an individual. Like, let me speak for myself so I can maybe that'll help. So for me, the answer would be the LGBTQ community, because I have family members that are within that community who have not always been treated the greatest, and I live way far out, in Ward 3, and for me, I just want other human beings to be treated like human beings, but that's the community that motivated me to be here, if that makes sense. So if you're not motivated that specifically, maybe your motivation was just strictly, all reaching, all community. That's okay too. So I don't mean to alienate that mindset either. But for me, what motivated me to move into this was that, and maybe you have more than one, and that's okay.
And I do think this could be ward-specific.
Mm-hmm.
I live in far southeast Oklahoma City, so we have a lot of rural area there, and that's not what you think about when you think about Oklahoma City. I also came out of a teaching position where I saw students who came from very challenging backgrounds. So those were my two motivators, is that children, students of all ages would have equitable opportunities. And then for my neighbors behind me with the chickens and goats to feel like they had a place in Oklahoma City as well. And that part of Oklahoma City is often overlooked, or they feel it is anyway.
They do, that's true.
So let me ask Barbara and Leslie, would you like to see answers to the question, what motivated you to serve on this commission? Is that really the question you're asking, rather than who do we serve?
Maybe a different way to ask the question is, who do I serve?
I think that's a good way to approach this,
Okay.
is who do I serve? I mean, obviously,
We're here to serve the whole community.
We're here to serve the
That is
entire community.
the purpose of the commission. But I think I was just trying to go for Mike. So the Human Rights Commission, in my mind, came back into existence for some very specific communities to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that kind of motivation in the who do we serve that I'm looking for. Does that make sense?
Are you thinking historically why the commission came back into being? Why the city council did proceed with establishing the HRC?
I think it's more forward-looking
Yeah.
instead of
Okay.
historical. I think it's more forward-looking.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's awesome, that why you were motivated to serve. We're going to lose somebody in that listing because you've highlighted who you are here to serve. Is there a common ground for why those communities you want to serve? I think that's what we need, is the bridge. And then we can come in underneath with bullets or key groups and things and be specific, but I don't want us to leave out anyone
No,
in particular.
absolutely. And I'm sorry if
Agreed.
I think I'm going about it. I think we're going to the same place. I was thinking about it from doing it the other way around. Start
Gotcha.
with the groups and then build to the bridge, as
Gotcha.
you described. So I apologize if that.
Oh, no. I'm
I
just trying to,
Absolutely.
bucket. And if it's going into the mission statement, my only comment on a mission statement is it can't be this
We
Okay.
won't list.
succinct
no.
key
It won't
points and so on.
It was more just a thought exercise.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the common understanding is, of course, it's for everyone, and we also understand that certain people have faced discrimination. And when we zoom out, we understand that certain groups face discrimination. And so I think the exercise and the question and the theory behind it is, let's take a second to reflect. We just did these strategic goals and we want to operationalize them. But let's take a second and reflect about, again, why we have decided to join this, why we believe in the work that we're doing. And so it's not like, let's make sure we list every single group so that we can include them. It's just like, let's get excited about the work that we're doing and the people that we're trying to serve, knowing that it is everyone.
Who do we serve?
Thank you, Emma.
I know, right?
to confine yourself to 2 or 3 words. In fact, I haven't been very successful at doing that.
That's okay. When we start by saying 2 or 3 words, at least then we're not getting a whole paragraph.
Yeah.
It's
True.
all good. It's all. That's all right. Everyone got theirs?
Oh, yeah, I can. It's the second part?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have who, any person, group who has been wronged and needs help, all of Oklahoma City, LGBTQ+, rural citizens and the disadvantaged, the city and all persons in the city, 2 SLGBTQ+, Asian American communities, immigrant communities. We serve human beings. We represent all regardless of their status. We are entrusted to make space for each resident. Minority communities, non-English speaking individuals who need additional support, underrepresented individuals, and those who don't know where to turn for guidance and help. Those are great.
Those are great.
Yeah.
They're great. All right, so the last question is, how do we serve them? You know, we can look back at the last year and see the different ways that we've served the community through a lot of different things. This particular question, you know, we kind of have the guardrails of the ordinance that we need to remain within, but I'm thinking about it, you know, forward looking. You know, how would you like to serve them? What do you aspire for this commission to be able to do within the parameters of our ordinance, you know, to be able to serve the community? Maybe it's another language for our forum to be in. Maybe it's a specific speaker that you'd love to hear from. Maybe it's a different kind of outreach, or you know, expanding our programming, you know, which I think we all aspire to do over time, and we're working towards that. But if there's something specific that's in your mind and your heart, that's kind of what I'm looking for. And so using that kind of as a backdrop to speak to, you know, kind of that future-looking mission or purpose.
You're getting your steps in today.
And then before we wrap up this portion of the agenda, if you don't mind, I'd just like to read a couple of different Human Rights Commission mission statements. And then if you have one that stands out to you that you're like, I like how that one sounds, over another one, please, you know, speak up and let me know that. That'll just kind of help us with different kinds of tones for it and that sort of thing. Uh-huh.
Let's read.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. We got to read the.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the responses to question 3, inform, create common ground, education, intentional partnerships, constant messaging with different outlets, forms in different languages, ASL interpreters at meetings, highlight communities, rural districts, and cultures, symbolic unity, celebrating our vibrant community, raise awareness, to listen and try to understand, to guide to the proper group. We must study our history, including policies and ordinances, practices and outcomes, data, housing, public accommodation, employment, mediation and conciliation services, respectfully.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. Okay, so I'll just start with the City of Tulsa's Human Rights Commission. So theirs says this. The function of the Human Rights Commission is to foster mutual respect and understanding and to create an atmosphere conducive to the promotion of amicable relations among all members of the city's community. Through its work, the Human Rights Commission strives to, number one, identify and enlist community resources to secure and extend democratic rights and opportunities and practices, and to encourage community support for human and civil rights programs. Number two, utilize the resources of individuals and groups within the community to improve intergroup relations. Number three, plan and conduct meetings, surveys, educational, and other programs concerning civil and human rights. Conduct such activities or hearings necessary to implement the provisions of this chapter. Number five, issue such publications and reports which will promote goodwill and reduce discrimination. And number six, report to the mayor and council disposition of all complaints referred to the commission annually. So that's Tulsa's.
Let me
They're
just,
not all
maybe,
that long.
let's take observations maybe of each one.
Sure.
One, that strikes me as not coming trippingly off the tongue. You know,
Yes.
it's very operational. It's really very technical. And that's an interesting approach to take. Not one I'm adverse to, but I'm just saying that, I mean, you couldn't even memorize that really to say
It's
that.
not touchy-feely.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's an elevator speech for the Devon Tower.
Right, yes. Agreed.
Yeah, a long, long elevator ride with cue cards and, but I can see why a commission would want to be that operationally specific. If you wanted to post something on your website with a lot of detail on what you do,
It would look like that.
that would, yeah.
Yeah,
mhm.
I agree.
I would frame what we should accomplish is why and how. And then the how is the actual tactical execution of how you deliver on that. But this has to be succinct but inspirational.
Right.
And then all that is, you know, justification of how you're going about it.
I think it leaves very little room for confusion about what their purpose and their goals are. And a lot of times when we use a lot of flowery language, that leaves room for criticism because people can't see themselves in that, and then they can't see what you're going to do for them. There are a lot of people going through things, and they want to know what can be done for me in my situation. And flowery language doesn't speak to their situations.
I'm taking notes.
I'm waking up.
Thank you. Any other comments on Tulsa? All right.
Do they have just the one statement, or
That-
do they have a shorter?
That
Statement.
was
Yeah,
what they
that's it.
called their mission statement, if I remember correctly. Let me
Okay, thank
jump
you.
to the website. Yeah, they don't even specifically call it a mission statement. I pulled it out as the version of that, is how they open their website. I apologize for misstating that in the beginning. The next one that I pulled off is Northfield, Minnesota. The City of Northfield Human Rights Commission seeks to secure for all citizens equal opportunity in employment, housing, public accommodation, public services, and education. The commission works to ensure full citizen participation in this community by assisting the State Department of Human Rights in implementing the Minnesota Human Rights Act and by advising the City Council on long-range programs to improve community relations in the city. It's considerably shorter. I think it does still touch on, many of the same similar kinds of bullet points that Tulsa did, so still pretty operational, like you said.
It is, and another observation about it is that it's tied to legal material, which I think is important too. The ordinance, the act, the Minnesota Act, other things, because I think if we stray from that too far, we
Well, it might
lose our
create-
groundwork.
Yeah, and I think it might create some of the confusion that Marsha was talking about too, so
Yes.
we don't want to do that either. Any other comments on that one?
One thing I like about both of them really is that the statements don't distinguish groups.
Right.
Rather, emphasize that the commission works for all. That includes landlords, employers, people who run public accommodations. They also will be served by the commission in bringing people together to understand. I just think about Ms. Beasley, who came to us to speak about being in public places with an adult child who needed a restroom where she could change diapers. So just bringing her together with people who run and plan public accommodations is quite a powerful thing to do, and it's a service to all rather than one group.
That's what my post-it was, we serve all, each resident, like humankind. And the reason is because, when you start parsing people out to focus on particular issues, like Rhonda said, you're gonna miss people. And every group has an agenda, but what are we to do as the bridge for those folks? I sit in education, it's always about teaching for me and helping people to understand how this world works, how things work, so that they can better participate and have access, to everything. So I think that as we go through this process, all is where we need to be, because we need to be very strong on that point. It's not for particular groups, it is for everybody to learn how to be in this together.
To create connections.
We are the bridge.
Yeah.
I think that's the word that really sticks out to me, is that bridge between people who face challenges with the people that offer the services, and to put them in the same room could be a powerful function of this commission, sorry.
For sure.
Offer something? I personally am going through something where if I didn't have connections, I would be drowning, okay? Majority of people do not have those connections. And so that's how I'm looking at it, is how do we become that bridge to get them the help they need? And you're lost, unless you have that. So let's give clarity and a direction for people.
I think it is about becoming community again. You know, if you look at a great number of research studies, the idea of community has really been lost for a great many people, because I, like you, have a very strong, deep community that I've built over a lifetime. But a lot of people don't have that. They don't have that friend to call or that connection to get them the services they need or the support. So to me, those are the two words that really stand out, is that we're going to be a bridge to the rebuilding of community in Oklahoma City.
And that's also why I wrote history. Like, we need to study our history. A lot of times we try to negate history,
Yes.
but when we know better, we are tasked with doing better. So understanding
Angela.
from whence we came, so that, you know, we don't repeat these same mistakes. Because in education, you'll know there's nothing new under the sun. Every single tactic that we use has been done before, it's been tried before, but we have to pair that with outcomes.
Yes.
So history and outcomes, because outcomes we can change, history we can't.
Right.
And so
Learn from it.
learn from it. I always say, you know, like C.S. Lewis, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending for people. So as we learn more about the history of our city and what folks have had to endure in our new ways of thinking, which didn't exist back then, we can make new pathways for people.
Agreed. Well
Love it.
stated. Thank you.
Now, obviously, there are thousands, notably, human rights commissions, human rights committees in various cities and states across the country. Those are just the two. I had a couple more, but they're very, how would I describe them? They're a little bit more like the one we have now. And so I won't read those to you since they're pretty similar, you know, two sentences that kind of talk very briefly about the missions. I did not find them thought-provoking, I guess I will say. But over the course of, you know, the next couple of months, if you find yourself reading Human Rights Commission mission statements and you find one that you're like, wow, this one's fantastic, you know, please drop Leslie or I a link to it, you know, and just say, hey, you guys really ought to look at this one. Or if you see one and you're like, if they do something like this, I'm going to fire them both. Send us that one too and say, not like this.
I'm curious whether Norman, hi Shaylin. I'm curious whether Norman Human Rights Commission has a mission statement.
Of course.
We just have the 3 in the state of Oklahoma. Ralph?
Maybe I'm dragging my feet because it's not 10 o'clock yet. So I really like what I'm hearing about making it personal, individual, rather than a group thing, because I understand the group thing, but if our mission statement was pointed to the person, I think it's more effective, because if I'm trying to put myself, and it's difficult, every one of us, like you've all said, we have groups that we know where to go to get help. We know that. Some people don't have what we have in this room. And they're looking for individual help more generally than a group thing. Not to ignore the groups, not to do that. But I think if we were to focus on the individual, and I like what I'm hearing, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but if we made that impactful for individuals, I think that stirs that inspiration.
I agree with that, and what you're hearing so far on these mission statements, pardon my comment, Jared and Daisy, but it seems legally written. And we need to have emotion provoking, and people can see themselves in that.
I'm not emotions don't fix anything, but they're the display, but we have to reach to that because that's where this person is.
Right, that is what drives the desire for resolution.
I really think we can accomplish both. I really do. You know, I fully expect for us to bring a couple ideas and for us to tweak them, you know, and maybe we send them out well in advance of the meeting, you know, so everybody's got some time, you know, and make your own edits to it. You know, what is it lacking? You know, what does it have too much of? That kind of thing. It's going to take all of us, you know, really being contributors to the end result. And I know everybody's willing to do that, but I do really feel like we can try to accomplish both, making sure that people hear solutions in it and a place to go to find help and what that's going to look like, you know, like as you mentioned before, and at the same time encouragement in it to do so. We want to encourage people to come to us, you know, for that help, you know, but to be very clear about what we can and can't do too. So
One solution might be, as you suggested, to have 3 separate
couple different
things to consider: a mission statement, a vision statement, and a purpose statement. That way, we can approach each with a different kind of impact for the statement. But I think Ralph is onto something too, because impact is what we want to convey, that we're not here to, you know, passively
right,
have a meeting every other month.
right. We want
But
to
rather
aggressively
have an
come help
impact
you.
on the community that the city itself benefits from.
I want to just say thank you, Councilwoman Peck and Dr. Van Buskirk, because this is going to be a big lift. It's not just something that we can do lightheartedly. And so as you all venture into this work and try to bring us around to the right thing, I appreciate it. And I think y'all are the right 2 people to do this.
I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot, and we take it very, very seriously. And we've both spent some time cogitating and Googling and just really thinking about all of it. So I look forward to bringing something forward to you all to consider and to work on with us together to come to something that works very well for all of us and for the whole city. And
All right, thank you all so much for doing this. This is kind of exciting to start pooling our ideas and our capacity to understand what we're doing here together and create something. Yes.
Before we conclude this discussion, I did find Norman's. They don't necessarily list a mission statement, but they have a section they call Purpose and Authority, and it has 16 items to it.
Oh, my.
So it's more of a
Almost like listing what the ordinance probably provides.
Yes,
for them to
it's
do.
more of a technical document to hold meetings, to institute and conduct. And so Barbara and I will have a longer look at that, but
Okay.
it's not inspiring, that's what I would say, or an elevator pitch. It is very laborious.
There's so much to think about now. And, you know, I'm also thinking, I shouldn't be this off the cuff, but this discussion is making me think whether it would be worthy of our effort and time to read certain things together. You know, I think it might be something to carry us through some concepts and issues, and I don't know, y'all are nodding your heads. I would be in favor of that. Choosing what we read is really probably going to be up to the Education Committee, as so much is. But I'm reading now a book called Love Your Enemies by Arthur Brooks. And have you read, has anyone read that? One of the main themes there is to observe that we are developing toward a culture of contempt for others rather than understanding of others. And it's a very powerful book. I'm about halfway through, and already it's changing my way of thinking about the problems we're facing as a society. And if you can kind of put your hand on what contempt does to destroy your capacity to find common ground, to find problems, solve problems. Anyway, keep that in mind. Give me your feedback at your convenience.
Chairman Couch, I think that's an awesome idea. I think putting time into reading a lot would be hard. However, the Cliff Notes version of that and the key points of what was the process of, what inspired you in that?
Yes.
And sharing that, I mean, just the culture of contempt. I mean, I was like, whoa, that sounds something that I want to get involved in.
Yeah.
And what does social media do to that aspect of it?
Yes. Oh, he goes into that with a lot of research about it too. It's
It's called
really,
Love Your Enemies?
Love Your Enemies.
Okay.
Arthur Brooks.
Dean Couch, I think that's a great idea. And well, speaking of social media, I think on the opposite aspect of that, we don't have to make it a requirement, but it could look like what is the HRC reading right now? So things as simple as that. We don't even have to all read the same book. We could do like a report at the end of what are we reading, what are we listening to with podcasts, what are we continuously learning, I think would be great. I also have to leave at 9:30, so please don't think I am upset and I am just leaving. I just have another meeting.
Well, we appreciate that. We understand. Thank you so much. Okay, well, let's move to the next item, which is in itself accomplishing one of the goals that we've set. That is to just have a time to have Emma in particular, but all of us get updated. She's going to update us on what our complaint process looks like now. If you went to our website, what would you see and how would you navigate? And then also get us up to speed, all of us, on how the complaint process has evolved and what Emma is actually experiencing with calls, inquiries, and complaints.
Cool. Well, again, Barbara, Leslie, thank you. I will transcribe those sticky notes and send them to you and everyone so that as y'all are working, you can have them for reference and you don't need to like squint at a picture of the boards because, yeah, that's a lot. So if everyone can press the presentation button, you should see what is up here. And
Presentation.
it's over here. So just a little bit easier. And I, of course, want to give a quick shout out just to like many of the city staff who have helped make this possible. So Liz and Sarah from PIM, Stephen and Titus from IT have been incredibly instrumental in making this happen. And so there are a lot of people working to support us. And so I just wanted to make sure that they get some credit for the hard work that they've put in. So I want to start first with a couple of visual changes to the website, and we'll scroll back up to this big submit a complaint button. But down here, sometimes websites, are just like long and hard to read. So we do have forms linked, both the Spanish and English version for intake forms. We have a link to a detailed description about the complaint process. So if people submit something and they're kind of unsure about what to expect, I'll open this document up in a little bit. And so it just provides more detail about what the process looks like, a little bit of the technical operational stuff so that people aren't sort of left in uncertainty. And then the new thing that Dean Couch and I worked on was just this FAQs section. And so I think, again, this kind of fulfills the purpose of what some of other cities in their mission statements got at, of just like, what do we do and how do we do it? And so I think each of these little things. Okay, good. Expands down, so it hopefully makes it a one-stop shop. So if you want to know where the meetings are, we're going to link you to the calendar. There's the agenda, so you just have more information. Just like maybe some, FAQs, you know what they are. A little bit of a purpose here, so this is another chance to, one, maybe talk a little bit about the technical and legal side of what's happening. Hi, Shay. And then I think as was on the website, a little bit of background information, some key responsibilities, a list of everyone, and then new on the website is just the, I don't know if this is the word, the thumbnail or the video, so people can go look at previous meetings and then see beyond just the most recent meeting, other recordings. So scrolling back up, the biggest improvement to our complaint process and website is this digital form for folks to submit a complaint. Previously, you could open a PDF, download it, assuming you had a printer, fill it out, mail it, and/or deliver it to City Council. Just incredibly high burden on anyone who has already experienced some discrimination and just is inconvenient. No one wants to do that. So now, hopefully, yes, you can submit all of these intake forms online. So click in, let's say we want to go employment, gives you a little bit of information about the process as well, links you to the ordinance, have to accept, and then you just go through this form. So because we don't have keyboards here and it'd be me manually typing everything, we're not going to do that. But basically, it runs you through the intake form just in a more sectioned off way, so it's a bit digestible. Also, there's still a place to download an empty form if you want. And so you just go through and submit it. I get a notification as soon as it is finished, and so I can go into a portal and see all of the complaints. I can update the workflow as it's incomplete, or there's no jurisdiction, or I've followed up. Just a much easier way to organize for me, and hopefully much easier for people to submit it and quicker to get a response. So,
Emma, quick question.
Mhm.
Do you know if somebody uses a different language in their browser, are they going to see it in the language that's native to their browser, or is it going to be in English?
it's going to be in English. So we spoke with someone in IT about this, and they're just like browser embedded translation services. But as far as the city and their website, it's a bit trickier for how to get them translated. But I think that's a good thing that maybe we could add a frequently asked question of what if I need the form in a different language other than English or Spanish, because there is a way to have it translated using the Chrome's built-in translator. So that's a good, let me make a note of that.
Yeah, I knew there was a built-in translator through Google. Google will use an overlay on the screen that translates below the words. So it'd be cool if we could run a test on that and see.
Same question related to ADA compliance, because that's a huge thing now where people are testing websites to make sure that they are accessible. So I can't see it because I'm not looking for it, but making sure that we keep that top of mind for our populations with exceptionalities.
Great, thank you all. I will follow up on both of those things. So going back then, so that's kind of what the website looks like. But then a bit of the details on how the process works. So if people approach you with questions or you're talking to anyone, you want to kind of give a little bit of insight into the way things will happen. We had a very confusing flow chart at some point. Again, this is all based on the ordinance, and so when there wasn't detail, we tried to put some reasonable guardrails around when a person could expect for the compliance officer to respond, because in our ordinance it doesn't actually have a time frame, but we don't think that that's best practice to just leave it open-ended. So basically, hopefully it's self-explanatory, and if you all want to take a look later and give feedback, that'd be useful as well. I will say that none of the complaints, as you know, have gone past even step 3, submitting a sworn complaint. And so I think really the bulk of our work is going to be in the first and second, trying to get a complete intake. Sometimes people call or just send an email, and the work is to try to decipher what the actual nature of their complaint is, and then trying to get them to fill out a form, and then if not, or we determine that the complaint is not within our jurisdiction, again, helping them get to the appropriate party, and that's been a lot of the work. So this document is here for if people have questions. Obviously, we haven't gotten down to sort of any of these later steps, but it is here and available, and hopefully when someone submits a complaint, I'm normally in touch quite quickly, and then it falls off in communication, honestly. But this would be another reference point for them if they were to continue in that process.
So just a moment here, because Emma and I worked on this description. Also, Emma and I worked on the FAQs. And really, they're works in progress. And we would really appreciate you all reviewing this and see what pops out to you as not clear or not emphasized well enough. I'm already seeing in the description a need to emphasize the referral function. In that point 2, our initial review, maybe the heading is "and potential referral" or something like that that alerts to the person who, oh, they could help me get to an agency that is the right agency as well. So your personal reviews of these things on our website would be really appreciated. Same with FAQs. My goodness, we will put in at some point our mission statement, but in lieu of that, we're winging it a bit, staying close to the ordinance, but also, trying to condense our purpose. So as our work unfolds with the mission and vision statement, we can incorporate that work here.
Definitely. So I think another question that came out of January's meeting was just, like Dean Couch said, to hear a little bit about the complaints, the number, how they're coming in, where they're going, what they're about, because they haven't progressed much further. It's mostly been like me, Dean Couch, and sometimes Jared or Rita helping sort of screen. So we had 15 complaints in 2023 and then 16 so far in 2024. So as of March 26th, we've already exceeded the number of complaints that happened in all of 2023. So I hesitate to say like, oh, that's a good thing because it's more complaints, but I think, again, it was never a question of whether there were complaints. It was, can people figure out where they need to go and are they able to submit something? So again, I think making the process easier for residents is a win. So almost 40% of complaints were filed via this digital form total, and over half of them since this was up have been filed via digital form. So I think that just, again, speaks to the value of having that, making it easier, and hopefully folks will continue to use that as they see fit. But still, this digital form, a lot of them come in via email. Someone has submitted paper forms, and someone actually came in to speak with me, which was really nice to just actually get to interact with a resident, because oftentimes it's via email, and I can't force anyone, of course, to respond, but I think so much of the value, like has been said earlier, is like the human connection, making people feel seen, even if we're limited by our ordinance. I've definitely called some people back who I know we can't do anything, just to hear what they have to say, because I think so much of when you feel like you've been wronged, it's having a chance to say something and feeling hurt and saying that. And so I think there's a lot of power in doing that, and I think for each of us, as we're interacting with folks who might have questions, like making them feel heard is like potentially one of the biggest impacts that we can have, especially if the complaints or what we can do is limited by the ordinance. So like I said, other people have referred folks to us. So someone emailed Greg the other day and it got sent to me. The individual who actually came to speak to me initially tried to come to the Action Center. So again, I think it's increasing awareness, not just among community members and residents, but people who could be referral sources. And I think they're obvious, EEOC, HUD, the AG's Office of Civil Rights Enforcement, but there are also other people within the city who we want to make sure that we have good communication with. I will say over half of our complaints were referred elsewhere. So I've referred people to EEOC, I've referred people to within the city, our police department's complaint process, because that's separate and that's a carve out within our ordinance. The state AG's office, Dean Couch knew that I should refer someone to OCU's Housing Eviction Legal Assistance Program. So I think, again, building out the ecosystem of players in the community, because a lot of people are doing similar work, will be really, really important. Again, it's one of our goals, and I think we should really be proud of our role that we can play in helping get folks to who they need to if it's not us. As far as the nature of the complaints, unsurprisingly, they range broadly, so I'll just highlight a couple. So one person worked in a hospital and was feeling discriminated against her boss. She asked to not be standing for like her entire 12-hour shift, and then her hours got cut, and then she wasn't really able to go through HR, and so she wasn't sure where to turn. Obviously, Ms. Beasley came and spoke about ADA compliance and access and public accommodations, and Scott Wise and all the building code updates that came soon after that did include the adult changing tables, and so that was like, she had already been doing a bunch. It was very clear that she was very active, but I think that was another one that was an individual, but again, would benefit everybody. And then someone came to speak to me about a housing issue with a landlord. This person lived in a duplex, and their neighbor had access to walk through their garage to get to their door. And then after expressing some discontent with that, the person was notified that their lease wouldn't be renewed. And so that's who we then referred to OCU. So again, we're seeing employment, we're seeing public accommodations, and we're seeing housing. And then we're seeing things beyond that as well. As far as like well, let me pause there and see if anyone has questions or wants to know more about kind of what I'm doing.
You might cover it later in your presentation, but I'm just curious to know, you mentioned that most of them are stopping before we get to step 3. So I'm just curious to know like what feedback you're getting and why it's stopping there versus continuing with the process.
So a lot of them are just outside of our, so some of them are non-response. So I reach out and say, thank you for submitting this. Do you have time for a phone call? Or if they email, I say, will you submit a form because this is the process we go through? And then there's just nothing, and I follow up again and there's nothing. So some of them are just non-response. A lot of them though are just outside our jurisdiction, and so I'm going through the form and I'm like, oh, okay, this seems relevant, and then I see their address and it's somewhere not in Oklahoma City, and I'm like, okay, well, is it in Norman or Tulsa, so I can refer there? Is it maybe bigger? Should I send them to EEOC? Should I send them to HUD? You know, they're regional offices, so I can give them an address and a phone number and the form to those agencies in their complaint process. But it's generally pretty early. You know whether it is or isn't, and sometimes when it's unclear, oftentimes folks aren't responding back.
Sometimes the inquiries or the complaints fall squarely into an exception to our jurisdiction, like it involves a police officer's action or inaction. So that is a specific carve-out from our authority, any city employee, actually. I think the police carve-out, as well as the public school teacher carve-out, are ones we're going to bump into a lot. And so we'll need to be a very good referral source for these kinds of complaints. And we're getting better at it, aren't we? I mean, we're learning a lot about where to refer people to,
Well, and now
especially
that-
within the city.
Yeah, now that the public safety, I can't remember the name.
Accountability board or
The
something
whole
like that?
committee,
Yeah.
they've recently convened the committee, finally had all the appointees for that new public safety board. It's like 5 words long, so I apologize, I don't remember all of them. But they will review the police cases, so I'm sure Emma will end up with a staff liaison if she's not the one.
About that.
I've already, yeah, I connected the resident to Andrea, who's my counterpart overseeing all the public safety stuff. So she's been in contact with the resident, so I feel very confident about that warm handoff. But yeah.
So out of the 16 that we received in 2024, how many of those are actually within our jurisdiction and within the ordinance?
None of them.
None of them.
Yeah, they've all either been, I mean, I think it's like, again, there's nothing in the ordinance that says how many times or how long I should follow up. Obviously, there's the 90-day thing. If I send 1 or 2 emails or calls and they don't say anything spaced about a week, I've generally let it go, or I've just referred out immediately. But none of them have fallen into ineligible.
I would love for the committee to look into, maybe the rules committee to look into that requirement of that form. Because to me, if I'm filing a complaint, I'm gonna fill out this whole thing and then I'm gonna be told to like fill out another form. It's like, oh my gosh, like I've already did that. Like, why are you asking me to do something else? So I guess re-looking at what the purpose of that is, and if we do need it, making it known, you know, you're filling this out, but if it falls within our jurisdiction, you're gonna be asked to fill out more information or sign a sworn affidavit, or, you know, like I just think it's, like if I've already given you notice of a complaint, like I don't want you to stop because I didn't fill out another, you know.
Yeah, so I will say the fall-offs aren't because people filled out a form and I either then refer them out or I'm trying to contact them to speak about. Sometimes they fill out the form, but the nature of their complaint still isn't clear, or someone filled it out and had no boxes checked for the like protected class. And so I was like, I still need to get more information. So even the form sometimes is incomplete, so it just requires more follow-up, and that's where I'm seeing people not respond. Or I talked to this individual, and the retaliation was not related to any protected class, and so it doesn't fall within our jurisdiction. So I do see what you're saying. I think when something moves forward and we move to a sworn form, the idea of creating an intake form was one to have a standardized way things were reported, as opposed to just like an email with a few sentences or a long, like we've gone very long emails with a lot of attachments. And then also because our ordinance says as soon as a sworn form is submitted, we have to contact the respondent, trying to make sure that we're not just contacting respondents and we haven't done our due diligence about whether the complaint actually falls within our jurisdiction. So that was the thinking, I think, behind the intake form. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yes, I mean, we struggled with this. I think you and Ralph were involved to a certain extent in these discussions. We didn't relish creating this intake form and then possibly needing a sworn complaint in addition. But the ordinance sort of makes that necessary. And I was looking at the Attorney General's Office of Civil Rights Enforcement. They have an intake form as well that is preliminary to an actual complaint that goes forward. We have talked about making it as simple as possible, maybe being able to take information from the intake form, put it in the complaint form, and then just send it to them for signing under oath.
Yeah.
I mean, do as much that can, you know, shorten that process as possible. I don't think we've figured out how to do that, but we've never had. We have
built sworn forms, and they look pretty much the same. And so I do think exactly that, of like being clear with the resident of saying, we think your complaint has some merit, so we want to move to the next step. Here's the form, because again, it's basically the same fields. It's not going to change too much. And then asking them to sign, that's really the biggest thing.
Can you pull up the form for us?
The
Like
sworn,
the PDF form?
yeah, why don't we look at public
Just the
accommodation?
PDF.
Yeah.
On the top, go to the top. Yeah, it says intake form.
These are intake forms.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that they know, you know, like this is the first step. Like this is the intake form, and then the next, we'll review it, and if it's within, you know, the ordinance and the jurisdiction, then we'll move forward with the sworn. You know, I think it's just making sure, because I don't know. We received a lot of complaints with OKCPS, and one of those main things is like, you're making me, you know, go through all these hoops, and like I already told you, I have a complaint. I have a formal complaint. Mm-hmm. And so for us, it's like, how do we make sure that we're listening to that within, you know, still being in compliance and making sure we have the right information and we can address it.
I do think it's important to filter But the human in the loop is what's making the difference at this point, because she's following up. I see what you're saying, like, man, I filled all of this stuff out, and now I gotta fill out, the same thing essentially. But right now, there are few, and you can follow up on each one, but thinking toward the future, like, how do we figure that part out?
So we do explain this right up here. After receiving the complaint intake form, the compliance officer will contact you, typically within 10 business days, for more information to determine whether the commission has jurisdiction over your complaint of discrimination. The compliance officer may give you additional information explaining how to file a sworn complaint to initiate a formal conciliation or mediation proceeding with the Human Rights Commission, or the compliance officer might refer you to another agency. It's a little complicated, but we've tried to sort of show the branches of the pathways here.
Well, I wonder if something that we can continue to work for, I know we talked about it early on, is like memorandums of understanding with some of the referring agencies where they might accept our intake form
Yes.
on the referral.
And we've made our initial connection to the AG's office.
Okay.
They currently don't have a person who is over the Civil Rights Enforcement Division. They're waiting to hire somebody. So we have made contact with that person's supervisors, and they're very open to the MOU idea. Yeah.
That was going to be my question about where we were in the MOU process and with which agencies, and then also if it's possible to really serve as a registry for nonprofits who handle these particular issues as well.
That's a good resource.
I
page to
love
have.
that idea.
And to add to that, I was at a significant nonprofit yesterday, and they have training on how to use mouse and how to access computers. And so it's critical for us to be mobile friendly, because typically they do have a mobile phone, but the basics, and I think it wouldn't hurt for us to have communication at those significant nonprofits on steps and things like that, and access.
Yeah, and maybe we think about, maybe we'll lean on Leslie here, to think about messaging and outreach, because I think many of us are probably aware / engaged, or maybe y'all are on boards of different nonprofits and could be spokespeople or be those communicators, as opposed to me sending a cold email, which I'm also happy to do, but I think we can sort of leverage our existing networks to maybe do that. That's a good idea. Any other questions?
Not a question, but just one follow-up to the last comment that I made. Sometimes it's not an agency that people need. Sometimes it is just like when Dean Couch referred to the OCU law centers. We have a lot of, tons of nonprofits who are looking for folks to provide their services for. And so I think it would be a really powerful thing if we could follow up with people and say, hey, you actually don't need to go through the red tape of this agency, but there is a nonprofit who does exactly what you're asking, where your help is. And so they might find a better reception, they might also find help there.
Yeah, I will say that because people are filing complaints, it's less of like I haven't gotten any that are straight need for services, but I will keep that in mind, because I think you're right, like we want people to get what they need, and sometimes people are going to turn to us and they don't need us and they don't need another complaint agency, so just being mindful of that. I will say so far though, it's been referrals to other agencies for them to submit a complaint who have a little bit more ability to enforce things, so. Great, so the last thing was just a couple of takeaways, which one is very not exciting because it's just an echo of what we've already spoken about in January and has been raised again I think there's a need to increase awareness about what types of complaints we handle. So, in our 3 categories of housing, employment, public accommodations, and then the carve-outs, like Dean Couch said, because it is a burden to submit a complaint, and if people knew where to go right away, it would just ease sort of the work that they have to do. And then we've gone to complain about, private property or something that just wouldn't fall into eligibility. And so I think, again, just helping folks know when they can come to us and make it as easy as possible for them to come to us can help do some sorting before it gets to me or even further. I know we need to increase and strengthen relationships with referral agencies, and I think we're working on that. That work is slow, but I do think it's a huge goal for us and maybe one of the biggest things we can do this year. So just again, recommitting that is a strong goal for us this year.
And that is on our list
Yeah.
of goals.
Right. Yeah.
Complaints and conciliation.
And then I think the last thing is just like thinking about our role and responsibilities. Again, the ordinance is very clear about what we can and can't do, and given the nature of complaints, we haven't been able to do much. And so I think beyond just the complaints, there is a lot that we haven't really tapped into. Like, we host our meetings and we host educational events at our meetings, but I think there is more talking about, like, we can form subcommittees to study things. We could, if we're talking about communicating with the public about what we're reading, as far as like a different avenue for education that doesn't require people to attend a meeting to hear a speaker or watch a 45-minute video. I think we can also think about our responsibility more broadly, because the complaint process is so individual in nature, as it should be. But I think, again, because we're saying we serve the community and we want people to see themselves here, if they haven't, personally experienced discrimination or feel like they need to submit a claim, how can they still see themselves in the work that we do and buy into this bigger mission that we have to improve the city as a whole? So I think that's just a parting reflection question that we should consider moving forward.
So thank you for all the work that you have done. This is a big, huge project. And when I think about from whence we came, we didn't have this before. And so Daisy and Ralph, your work in this process has been key, Dean Couch, but especially you, Emma. Like, this has been hard. Nothing moves at the speed of light and doesn't move as fast as people want it to move. But look where we've come and how far we've come in this process. So there is something in place that was not there before. So
Thanks. Yeah, definitely a team effort.
And Emma, if I could also make a comment, you said you're forging relationships with those referral agencies. Would there be a potential of hosting all referral agencies to some kind of a meeting where you provide, here is our mission, here's how we approach things and so on, and why it's critical for us to exchange, if you will, not exchange, but this is how it should work, and get them to buy in on the process, and then you have accomplished it in that one session versus forging each respective things.
which does fit with the Education Outreach Committee goals. So not just serving public, but serving agencies and nonprofits as well.
Yeah. I think there's definitely opportunity for that. So we'll look into it. I don't know if it makes sense to have one to use as a template or an example, or if we want to pitch everyone at once. But yeah, I think
What if we pitched everyone at once and invited the community out so they could get to know those agencies as well?
I think that's a possibility. Yeah. Yeah, we'll make notes and think about it.
And if it's an insurmountable number, perhaps you carve out by purpose or area of focus, and then you have these smaller sessions and create connections and create open discussions.
This year, the Education Committee is planning, and perhaps it's for the July meeting, and Marcia, you can speak to this too, but a panel that covers our 3 primary areas. But there's been discussion about, what about 3 different panels covering the areas singularly? So there's still a lot of thinking and consideration going on, but I think that may be the beginning of what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what is needed or wanted after that.
Y'all's comments leaned more towards the separating out. I think having education, housing, and public accommodations in one is a lot. And so, especially if we're trying to facilitate some connection and maybe some, like co-learning for where we learn about what other folks are doing as well, splitting them out by the different subject would make more sense. But yeah, we'll touch base and talk to Cindy as well.
It also speaks to targeted invitations to our meetings. So if we're going to do one on housing, there are certain people we might want to specifically send an email saying, hope you can come to this meeting. We know you're working in this area. So that would facilitate that kind of connection making.
Cool. I have a note, and yeah, let's keep thinking about it because I think there's a lot of opportunity there. But that is all I had, unless if there are any other questions, happy to answer them.
Any questions for Emma? This has been really helpful, Emma, I think, and just looking at the website is helpful too. I can already see some things that we can tinker with. And again, I ask each of you to go on the website and look around and see how easy or not it is to navigate. And we did get the expert help of the city team, but they aren't specifically focused on what we're doing or what we're trying to accomplish. So our input is going to be very important. On the remarks and announcements, we have a section for members of the public to make remarks. Members of the commission, anyone on the commission want to make any closing remarks or announcements? Members of the city staff? Jared? And Tammy?
Jared, it's your turn to talk. Speak. You're hungry?
I'll express my gratitude to all commission members for their hard work and efforts.
Well, we want you to know that we're thankful for your presence. It's so good to have you listening to what we're doing and understand on a deep level what we're trying to accomplish. So your presence is really important. And I want to say that for Tammy Maxwell too. Do you all realize how much Tammy does for us? It's just phenomenal. So, and she does so with such care and friendliness. And thank you, Tammy.
Yes, Tammy's a rock star. Will second. This would not be possible without Tammy. So,
May I ask one question of Emma?
uh-oh.
Coming from my background, we made calls on the fire department to people repeatedly. We called them frequent flyers. Are you seeing that yet?
There's one resident who has sent multiple things, and we're trying to parse out kind of the nature of the complaint. And the first one was spaced maybe 2 months before, and then there were like 2 or 3 emails recently. That is one of the residents who voiced explicitly appreciation for just being heard, even in the first time when I said we don't have jurisdiction, was just like, thank you for listening. It feels like people don't care. So there's only been one, and this individual was also connected with someone else within the city to go forward with their complaint in a different avenue. So generally, no, though. They've all been unique other than that one individual.
May I say one other thing? We have a rock star in Tammy, but we have a rock star in Emma. Thank you for
Without a doubt.
bringing cohesiveness and direction and confidence in doing the right thing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's
Y'all
give
are
her a
very
round of applause.
Thank you.
All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you again in May, and that'll be a wonderful